Welcome back to episode 29. The tariffs are shifting, but the fallout isn't over. Welcome back. It's Gia, and today we're going to wade into the topic that just won't stay still or quiet. Tariffs. Now I know what you're thinking. I've already done episode after episode about them. Well, I'm going to do this episode and probably 50 more by the time second quarter is even done. But here's the thing. With today's twist, the U.S. might be backing off a bit. Because right now, tariffs on Chinese imports are still sitting at a staggering 145%. I did not read that wrong. That is not a typo. It is still sitting there at 145%. And yet reports say the U.S. may slash those down to somewhere below 80%, possibly as low as 60%. President Trump is the one who tossed out the 80% as a reasonable target. And look, on paper, that sounds like relief. But for those of us in logistics, this isn't relief, it's a reframe. It's a bold headline that sounds hopeful, but hits differently when you're on the warehouse floor, you're in the rail yard, or you're working the port containers. Because planning around maybes don't allow for freight moving. It doesn't move freight at all. It stalls it out. And yes, while we've been living under tariff pressure for years, and we have built sourcing strategies, contract pricing, and staffing plans around 145% tariff environments, factories did shift production timelines, distributors renegotiated long-term deals, steamship lines rerouted vessels. With all of this coming about, we're asked to pivot again. Mid-contract, mid-quarter, midstream. Policy whiplash is what I call that. And I'm going to tell you, your girl's tired. And I know I'm not the only one. It's exhausting. And it's not just the U.S.-China lanes anymore. Poor Canada stepped into the volatility too. Negotiations between the U.S. and Canada on that new metals framework stalled around June 5th, June 10th? Leaving exporters in limbo? Canadian ports are seeing surge volumes of diverted shipments, and customs inspections are adding days, sometimes weeks, to cross-border moves. Look, policy whiplash does not respect borders. It just spreads. And let's be clear, tariff reductions won't undo the backlog. They aren't going to refill the containers that didn't get booked. We're not going to be able to rebuild that trust overnight, because this kind of chaotic energy, it comes with a cost. For some, perspective. Just look at what's happening right now. Over the past year and a half, U.S. importers have absorbed about $10 to $12 billion in extra tariff costs. CBP holds have climbed up like 20 to 24%, and if you're shipping across the U.S.-Canada border, you're probably feeling it more than most, because clearance times of those imports have stretched out by an extra 3 to 5 days on average. And freight forwarders, they're quoting spot rates that bounce between 20 to 35% more than they did last year. LA, Chicago, Toronto warehouses, they're packed, they're full. And I'm not talking, when we say, we've got enough, like 70%. Some of these warehouses are at capacity. This isn't just a line item in a quarterly report. It's the day-to-day reality that makes every plan feel outdated before the ink is dry. We don't flip a switch and reset port operations or carrier contracts or rail routes. We have to rework it, we have to reforecast it, and we have to reprice it. And all of it takes time. And we weren't given the time needed. And in Canada's case, time is running thin as exporters are scrambling to find new routes to Europe and Asia before the next round of tariffs or policy shifts. Look, if tariffs can drop from 80%, if they can even get down to 60%, then what are we really doing here? What's the long-term signal? Because here's the thing. Tariffs aren't just taxes. They are a barometer of trust. People say barometer, I say barometer. All depends on who you are. Trust that businesses can plan. Trust that the rules won't shift every quarter. Trust that the investments companies made in quarter one won't be rendered useless by quarter three. Currently, we see in the opposite. We're seeing rushed orders, hedged inventory. We're seeing freight sitting at ports because someone else is waiting to see what might change next week. Are they going to be cost more? And here's the kicker. Canadian exports to the U.S. were already down about, 5%. Right now, I think they're sitting around 7.5 to 8 compared to last year. Mostly because the trade talk hit a wall. And at the same time, though, intermodal volumes moving through Vancouver have jumped like 15 to 20%, depending on the commodity. And as companies try to find any path that leads to something more predictable. Even if you're not dealing with the cross-border freight situation, you're seeing the ripple effect. Lead times on our big shipments have stretched out anywhere from 12 to 20 days, which makes it nearly impossible to get a true delivery date you can stand behind. And that's not clarity. That's confusion dressed up like progress. And in transportation, it's not good. Because what that means is freight hesitates when trust breaks. And hesitation trickles down to planners juggling ETAs that are already wrong, to drivers rerouted mid-haul. And I'm talking, they were like 2 miles from the warehouse they are dropping freight at. Oh, can't go there anymore. They're over capacity. You've got to go now 200 miles another way. Thank God you're still under the load and you hadn't actually unhooked from it. But I digress. To shippers and planners and operators fielding calls from every direction. Where's my order? What's the new duty rate? Why did the cost spike? Why can't I get my container? Why is this still on hold? Tariffs touch all of that. Not just at customs. But in the chaos they leave behind. The uncertainty that no one knows what the next move is going to be. And with Canada's trade, it's only added more layers, more paperwork, more contingency plans, more questions that nobody has a straight answer for. So yes, if this is a move toward de-escalation, we welcome it. But don't confuse it with a resolution. We are still dealing and living inside a reshaped supply chain. One built under pressure. One that has had to learn to react and not rest. And until we see real signals of stability, not just numbers tossed around for political play, we are staying on alert. Because planning, whether it's warehouse, trucking, shipper, buyer, it doesn't restart with a tweet. It restarts with trust. And right now, that trust is still on back order. Probably on a ship inside the Panama Canal. I'm just saying. It's back there somewhere, far away. We can't see it right now. So what do we do, Gia? What do we do now? Well, those of us in logistics, transportation, shipping, we stay aware. We push for clarity, and we advocate for the voices on the ground. Your heavy lift operators, your container yard operators, your warehouse workers, you advocate for the ones absorbing the whiplash while the headlines chase spin. Because in logistics, it's not about what's promised. It's about what's delivered. And we're still holding the line. So until next time, keep steady, moving forward. And remember, I'll be navigating the crossroads right along with you.